Glyph City family, what is up? It is Art and Bobby back in our second home, the grocery store. And I want to do a video all about glyphosates. Glyphosates are the active ingredient in Roundup from Monsanto. And it doesn't just affect the most widely spread GMO crops like corn and soy. It actually affects a lot of the stuff we eat every day, like oats, cereal, beans, pasta, wheat, and bread. And I'll go into why it affects it in a second, but I think it's very important to know these foods, know how high they score in the glyphosate level, and why it's important to avoid them. Before we do our thing, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, all those good things. But the most important thing is pushing the bell icon right below the video, because every single week we have 3, 4, 5 pieces of content going live, and you do not want to miss out. All right, let's start off with something that can score alarmingly high in glyphosates, and it's oats, right? So I pick up a bag of old-fashioned rolled oats, and the problem is, if you don't see the word organic, these are going to test high in glyphosate. So what is glyphosate? Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. Roundup is the most popular herbicide or weed killer in the world. The thing is, most times it's sprayed on corn and soy. We know those as the biggest offenders of GMOs. But here's the crazy thing that I've learned, is they also spray Roundup on wheat and oat crops to kill it at the end of the cooking, at the end of the growing process, because Roundup is a desiccant, right? And the glyphosate in there will kill the plant, making it easier to harvest and getting the oats and getting the wheat off the plant. The thing is, it's very easy to avoid because this is conventional oats. If you go and trade up to organic oats, the glyphosate levels aren't zero, but they're below the threshold for anything alarming. When you see USDA organic, that means a lot, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, Bobby, how do you know if it's organic? Do they really follow the rules? You have to follow the rules, otherwise you get into a lot of trouble. And if something is organic by law, they cannot, I repeat, cannot use Monsanto's Roundup. So this is not gonna have any of that Roundup sprayed on there to kill the plant so they can harvest it, but it can be near a field that has glyphosate sprayed. That's why it still has measurements of glyphosates in there, but nothing like conventional. So, especially for kids who eat a lot of cereals and oatmeal, you have to, in my opinion, feed them organic. It's really, really important. Plus, check this out. Since we're here, this is something that I've never seen before until recently. If you're gonna eat oats, obviously organic's good, but this is sprouted. I've never seen sprouted oats anywhere in the store. We've seen sprouted bread, and we'll talk about that later on because glyphosates are in bread. Sprouted are sprouted grains that are usually soaked in water till a tail forms. The beauty of sprouted grains is that your body derives more nutrition from them, and they're easier on your body to digest. I've never seen sprouted oats, which is really, really cool. And since we're a paleo keto household, since we're down here, we don't eat grains, but I do eat this. This is a fantastic cauliflower hot cereal. This company is amazing. Instead of grains or oats, look at this. They actually use coconut flakes, almond protein, cauliflower flour, chia seeds. This stuff's amazing. If you're paleo, I would scoop that for sure. This stuff is great. All right, now the same principle applies to cereal, something that kids eat and love all the time, even though I'm not a huge fan of it because they're grains. Many of them are simple carbohydrates like rice and corn, which have no nutritional value. You gotta get organic. Because the traditional ones like these, Cheerios, we look what's here, right? Nothing's organic. So it is whole grain oats, but all oats are whole grain, so that's actually a little misleading. But the oats are not organic, so they're gonna score high in glyphosates. They have other stuff too. But as soon as you start going to regular cereal made with wheat, once again, like oats, is sprayed with Roundup because they wanted to use it as a desiccant to dry up or kill it quicker. So you have to go organic cereal. We talked about this in the cereal video below a few weeks ago. I would get this. This is Ezekiel, the guys who make sprouted grain bread. And they make an organic sprouted grain cereal that has best in class ingredients. So if you're gonna feed your kids cereal, I'm really passionate that it should be organic, ideally whole grain and sprouted, because kids love cereal. I can't imagine feeding a kid a high glyphosate cereal that also might have high sugar and be simple carbohydrates that aren't whole grains. That's really bad news. Okay, so that's it for the breakfast aisle here. Let's go over to the pasta aisle because glyphosates sneak into that aisle too. The three kind of pastas that actually rank the highest in glyphosate levels will be traditional pasta because it's made with wheat or enriched wheat macaroni, but surprisingly also pasta made from chickpeas and pasta made from lentils will score high in glyphosates too, which is interesting. You wonder why that happens, because when you have a pasta like this made from chickpeas or a pasta made from this like lentils here, I don't see the word organic anywhere. So what's actually happening is this is planted near fields that are non-organic with like wheat, corn, and soy, and the runoff from the Roundup is going into these beans and making the glyphosate levels high. So what you actually want to do is trade up and get organic chickpea or organic lentil. It's going to have some level of glyphosate, but much less, because organic fields are not planted right next to fields that are going to have crops that are sprayed with glyphosate like corn or soy. So something to really keep in mind. But if you want to eat a regular pasta that's going to be low to no glyphosate, well, get rid of the regular one. And once again, get organic pasta, because organic wheat cannot be sprayed with Roundup. It's illegal, right? So while this is not something I would eat because we don't eat grains or starches at home, and if we do, I'm going to eat a gluten-free one like an organic chickpea pasta, you really want to get organic. I really think it's worth it. So that's what I would do in the pasta oil to avoid elevated glyphosate. Let's move on. So if we know that wheat is sprayed with Roundup to kill it towards the end of the living process to make it dry out quicker to harvest the wheat, what does that say about the flour we use every day? Well, it says if you're using a regular non-organic conventional flour like this, that means even though it might be a good brand like King Arthur, they're spraying it with Roundup and it's going to have elevated glyphosate levels. So what do? Well, I would immediately, no matter what flour you buy, get organic. Gone is any use of Roundup. It's completely illegal. But I'm a whole wheat kind of guy if you're going to eat grains. So knowing that, you probably want to get an organic whole wheat flour to do your baking at home. But if that's the case about flour, what does that say about the breads? Let's go over there, because you really have to be careful about the breads you're eating every day. Well, here's the bread wall, right? And the same rules apply. You're probably going to want to get organic bread, and this is one of the best ones on the market. It's organic and sprouted. And we talk about this so many times, but all the ingredients here are going to be sprouted organic, so there's no to low glyphosates, and sprouted grains are where it's at because there's more nutrition there. But if you pick up another thing like, let's see, this is a sprouted bread, right? 7-grain sprouted whole grain. I love sprouted, I love whole grains if you're going to eat bread. But I don't see the word organic anywhere. So even though the ingredients are good, they could be higher in glyphosates because it's not organic wheat. So they're most likely spraying it. So keep that in mind. Any kind of bread you eat, you want to get organic. You really want to get whole grains, and sprouted is the best. This brand of sprouted is great. The Ezekiel sprouted is great. Silverado is great. There's some really great ones out there, and the best ones actually live in the freezer section. We have a whole video on bread. I would highly encourage you to check that out. But the Monsanto effect, the Roundup glyphosate, affects everything, including good old bread. So now that we understand that all wheat, if it's not organic, is sprayed with Roundup to make it dry out quicker, well, that's going to affect one of America's favorite foods, and it's going to be pizza, which is why if you're going to get frozen pizza, you really want to go organic, in my opinion. And we've talked about Amy in the past. Amy from California is an OG, and she's been doing it right for so many years. So first of all, yeah, it's made with organic flour, which is great. But for a frozen pizza, can you please look at these ingredients? There's no filler, it's all thriller. She's using expeller pressed high oleic. We talked about that in another video. High oleic is a heart healthy fatty acid profile, and safflower oil has to be expeller pressed. And everything is clean, but I'm focusing on the flour, and even though it's unbleached or enriched flour, they're not going to use whole wheat flour here, that's fine, but the organic means that it's not going to be sprayed with the glyphosate and the Roundup, whereas probably 95% of them on the market are, because it's not going to be organic. So organic really matters for wheat. In my opinion, if you want to stay in frozen pizza land, when I get one, I get a grain-free pizza. And I know it's pricey, but this brand is popping up all over the place, including Walmart now. And you're not going to have any glyphosate in here because The main ingredient here is almond flour and cage-free eggs. And have you guys ever seen ingredients for a pizza crust? It is so clean with extra virgin olive oil, not high oleic expeller pressed, coconut milk, apple cider vinegar. This is fantastic. It is pricey at $9.99, but oh no, so this is $6.99. You can get the full pizza with the pepperoni for $9.99, but something to really keep in mind because this glyphosate can sneak up everywhere. I want you to see Art's dedication to the craft right now. He's going to get the smoothest shot ever because he Jimmy rigged a Steadicam there. Look at Art, he's the man. How cool is that, you guys? Okay, come over here. I want to show you about wheat crackers because once again, it's made with wheat. It can be affected by Roundup. Just because you pick up a box of wheat crackers here that have the non-GMO, don't be confused because even though it's non-GMO, my friends, wheat is not a GMO crop. This is just to make you feel warm and fuzzy. More importantly, this is not organic. So yeah, it's non-GMO, whoop-de-whoop. Because it's not organic, we have the same problem we had with the bread, with the pizza crust. It's sprayed with the Roundup to kill or dry out the wheat plants. So I wanted to point that out. So what do? If you want a wheat cracker for your kids, well, number one, it's gotta be whole wheat and it's gotta be organic. Right in front of me is Annie's Organic. She actually makes one of the better crackers for kids because it's organic, whole wheat flour. It's a complex carbohydrate here, and it's gonna be organic, so it's not gonna be sprayed with the Roundup. So something to keep in mind of, but if you wanna avoid wheat altogether, you have some options here too. This would be more of a wheat-free, gluten-free cracker. These are Mary's, and these won't have any wheat. It's actually gluten-free. Even though it's made with brown rice, which can be high in arsenic, I'd rather have that than the wheat. This brand is from Chicago, and it's so interesting because it's so close to being the best paleo grain-free cracker ever. But can you spot the one ingredient I don't like here? So it has nut and seed flour instead of grains. Everything else is clean, but it's organic sunflower oil that's not expeller pressed. Here's the funny thing. I'm starting to hear from brands that we talk about in these videos when they're saying, hey, our oil actually is organic and expeller pressed. They haven't got back to me, but I know Birch Benders did. And I'm like, I want to believe you, but unless you actually put it on the label, it's hard to believe because why would you be using expeller pressed and not actually putting it on the label? So something to keep in mind, right? Grain-free crackers are not going to have that wheat problem, but wheat crackers, once again, have to be organic. Otherwise, you run into those elevated glyphosate levels.
Hey, Bobby?
Yes?
Expeller pressed means more letters. More letters means more cost.
I don't think we're going to worry about that, but thank you. Art isn't a former accountant, so of course he would think of that. All right, family, that is a wrap. Ready to bounce, Art?
I think so.
Actually, we're probably not going to bounce. We got to do a thumbnail. We might do a live stream after this. We're basically in the grocery store for a good 3 to 5 hours every time we come here, which is why we call it our second home. So guys, that is it. I really want you to try to avoid glyphosates in the food we eat every day. And I hope I kind of opened up your mind to realize that glyphosate is really affecting a lot more foods than the traditional GMOs like corn and soy. Hey, what other videos do you want to see? I have a great idea of videos to make, but these videos are all about you. Leave a comment down below, let us know. Below Art and I right now are 2 videos going. Like, subscribe, share, but Art and I will see you very soon. Until then, we say unto like we always do every single time. Hashtag keep on cooking, mad love, and peace.
You fooled me, Bobby.
I love when I fool Art.